Dear friends, today we have gathered here to talk about another very important topic, which also forms a base of our training, which is a bedside training. So today we'll be talking about ward rounds, how what's the importance of this, and how in examination it is conducted. I am Dr. Anurag Mishra, a faculty in surgery, and with me,
I'm Arun Kakar. I'm sure you're familiar. You must have seen my faces and you must have heard my name so often. You must be getting fed up actually. But as a part of exercise, today Dr. Anurag Mishra and myself, we would be making you a little aware or familiar with an entity called ward round, which is a part of your final DNB examination. After having done your so-called long case and short cases, or the 3 or 4 cases as you get, there's another very important step is to assess how do you manage a patient in the ward. And believe me, don't get awed, don't get nervous. It is exactly like you take a morning round when you go with your colleagues in the hospital. They take you or they allot you cases from the ward. And for your demonstration, we'll try to explain to you what we do. You are allotted a case. Somebody comes and gives you a brief summary of that patient. For example, like if Dr. Anurag is taking my examination, I would be allotted a case. Suppose the patient has undergone a mastectomy and she has got a drain in the axilla. So I would be told by the resident of the unit that this 45 years old lady or 50 years old lady has undergone modified radical mastectomy or a mastectomy with axillary clearance for stage 2 or stage 1 carcinoma breast, say 5 days back. She is not a diabetic. She is not hypertensive. There is no family history of malignancy breast. I am asked, now here is your patient. You examine a patient for a period of 5 minutes. If I want to ask any question, I can ask a question from the resident. And at the end of 5 minutes, Dr. Anurag would question me, what is the status of patient? Am I comfortable with the condition of the patient? Does a patient have any complication? What complication did I look for? Was there any signs of thrombophlebitis? Was there any collection in the axilla? Was there redness of the flap? Was there a necrosis of the flap? Did I notice whether the patient's drip is on the same side or a contralateral side, which, as you would know, that we normally convey that the limb, the side where you have done a mastectomy, you don't set up any drip, you don't give any IV infusion. And if for some reason the patient has got a drip or an injection on the same side, this is something which is not correct. And they expect me to say that in examination. There is no theoretical discussion. Nobody is asking you what chemotherapeutic agent you are going to give. They would be asking, okay, this is the surgery, this is the condition, the histopathology report comes out this, how would you proceed further? Yeah. Is that right?
I think this is what it is.
Anything else?
So, in theory exam, basically we assess the theoretical knowledge of students. In practical or skill stations, we can assess the skills. Here, I think it's all combination of your academic or theoretical knowledge, practical knowledge, and how you implement it in day-to-day patient care. So I think this is what, and bedside teaching and ward rounds have been a very effective teaching tool as well as an assessment tool
Absolutely
to
right.
judge a student, and that is what it is. So, so sir, what should be the best way a student can prepare himself in ward round and in their daily course?
You
Or
know, the best way is you don't have to prepare anything at all. You have to be sincere with your day to day ward work. You just can't say that I'll pass my DNB examination by studying the last 3 months or 6 months. If you have not gone to the ward round, to the hospital, you have not conducted the ward rounds regularly, you have not been going with your colleagues, you have not been attending to the patients regularly, it would be difficult. Because nobody is going to ask any standard question. You take a round, I'll give an example. Suppose we are going, Dr. Anurag is my consultant and I'm going on a round with him. He is on a cholecystectomy, say 2 days back, and he's put a drain. Morning, he expects me to tell him, is the patient febrile? Is the patient properly hydrated? Has the patient been taking orally or not? If not, why not? If a patient has been taking orally, has he been taking a regular diet or a liquid diet or a restricted diet? Is the patient on antibiotics? If so, which antibiotics? What doses are we are giving him? Has the patient been made ambulatory? Does the patient have any cough? Does the patient have any features of DVT? Does the patient have any features of thrombophlebitis? Has the patient got jaundice? If there is a drain, how much is coming in the drain? What is the color of drain? Is the drain smelling or not? Is the abdomen distended? Is the abdomen flat? Is the abdomen moving with the respiration? But this is what is a ward round.
Yep.
Nobody is asking you that what is the capacity of a gallbladder. No, it doesn't mean anything at all. In a patient, if the drain is draining, say, 100 cc's of bile stained fluid, the next question is, okay, he would ask me, okay, young man, what are you going to do? How shall we manage him next day? But this is what is a ward round. Nobody is asking you the diameter of a common bile duct or the flow of bile in 24 hours. Okay, as a part of discussion, suppose the drain is 500 cc's a day. Then one may question, you mean the whole bile is coming into the drain? Or only part of the bile is coming, some bile is flowing into the... That is where a bit of a theoretical question would be there. Otherwise, it's a plain, simple, day-to-day evaluation of a patient as you go on a ward round. Another example. He did a, say, laparoscopic mesh hernioplasty on a 50-year-old man, bilateral. When I go in the morning before he comes, it is expected of me to know, has the patient slept well? Is he in a pain? If so, how severe is the pain? Has he been vomiting? Has he passed urine? Is he febrile? Has he got distension of abdomen? This is what you expect next day. Because you expect a patient who has had a mesh hernioplasty, laparoscopic, to be up and about next morning.
Yes.
There's no reason why he should not be up and about. And if for some reason, if he is not up and about, you have to examine and find out what can be the cause of him being immobile. And this You can't read this from a book and appear an
Yes,
examination.
exactly.
This is a word round. And unless you go and do this every day, you won't be able to face the examiner in the examination. It is actually not an examination. It's a discussion between a consultant and a resident. You are a resident, an examiner is a consultant for you. What do you say?
Yes. So I think it's one of the easiest part of examination to prepare, and also the most difficult if you're not going to board, because there is no book or something where we can have list of topics or a 1 or 2 pages which you can read and go and give viva on. So it will be based on how much you know about the particular procedure, the likely complications of a surgical patient, and how to assess it and how to manage it. And then there will be discussion around it. There can also be some imaginary situations which examiner can tell you that, okay, this is a day 3, patient is having fever. What do you think is the cause of this fever? And how will you evaluate this fever? How will you treat this fever? So you should know that, causes of fever on various days post-operative. You should know what is the significance of, like Sir said, about 100 ml of bile versus 500 ml of bile in drain. So what do you think is anatomical, or what complication has happened? If there is a blood, and how much amount of blood is there in drain? In post-mastectomy, there is a 50 ml of serous fluid, there's 50 ml of blood. There are a lot of differences. So if you have been managing these cases every day, you'll be very easily sailing through it. So
there is no theoretical at all. I give another example. I'm sure when he comes in the morning, before he comes to take a round, he expects me to write down the IV fluids for the next 24 hours for a patient who's been on IV drip. He would ask me, how did you calculate that this is the amount of fluid you're going to give? Yeah. How did you, what basis, what parameters do we take into account when we calculate the 24-hour fluid requirement of a patient? One is the total amount. Second is, what type of fluid are you giving? Why are you giving this fluid? Why aren't you giving 5% dextrose or a dextrose saline and you are giving a normal saline? Why aren't you giving a Ringer's lactate? I mean, this is something you can't learn from reading a book.
yeah, right.
You have to have gone through the ward rounds regularly. Then only you can say, look, this is the basis I'm calculating. This is how I have calculated the IV fluids. This is why I'm not giving a Ringer's. Because all of you are aware that Ringer's has got a lactate. And patients who got a liver dysfunction, you don't give them lactate, because lactate doesn't get metabolized.
Yeah.
So it can precipitate lactic acidosis. Whereas a patient who's got a metabolic alkalosis, like gastric outlet obstruction, we never give them Ringer's lactate, because it gets metabolized into the bicarbonate and precipitates a metabolic alkalosis. So unless you have seen these cases, unless you have calculated these fluids day-to-day basis, you won't be able to sail through in your ward round. And mind you, ward round is very, very important. Yeah. And if I am not wrong, I think it is equivalent to your 2 short cases. I think it's about 80 marks.
Yes.
And out of 120 is for long and the short cases, and 80 is for the ward round.
Ward rounds, yeah.
It's a significant thing. And there's no, I repeat, there is nothing theoretical at all.
And even for PG students, I think very soon this pattern will be introduced into this PG exams. Also in the so-called proposed next exam, it will be a part of the examination. So the PG students will also concentrate on this particular skill set. And most of the, like Royal College and other examinations, also lay a lot of emphasis on ward rounds as a means to evaluate students. So please do give it due importance. To help you all in this, what we will do in coming weeks, we will have a series of mock ward rounds where we'll take a clinical scenario and we'll have faculty discussing around that what can be the various questions and how to answer them, how to manage it. I'm sure that will be very helpful for students.
The aim of this exercise is to take you away from the books. Want you to go to the hospital regularly, attend to the OPDs, attend to the theaters, attend to the ward rounds every day, see the patient morning, evening. That's how becoming a surgeon, you can be a very good, you may be able to do a beautiful dissection and suture it up. But if you don't follow up, that's not a surgery. Or if you know everything about a theory and you do not know how to make an incision, you're not a surgeon.
I think surgery is still a field which cannot be taught off the hospital completely. We can make the base, but yes, the finer thing, the day-to-day things are very important in shaping you as a good surgeon. And so we will help you in that. We will be creating a hand-picked list of cases which we will be discussing with you, which are commonly asked in ward rounds also. So yes, what are the various according to you various broad topics which, like for example, we talked about complications post-operative, but can there be a case which was not operated at all and can be kept in ward rounds?
Oh yes, suppose a patient has got a
pancreatitis or
pancreatitis. Normally, acute cases are not kept on examination. Okay. Suppose a patient has been having a subacute intestinal obstruction, has got a visible gastric intestinal peristalsis.
Yes.
Patient is dehydrated. He is to be worked up. You are taken to the ward room. You are shown, okay, here is a man. This man was admitted 3 days back with a history of vomiting, distension of abdomen, having not passed flatus or moved his bowels. He was put on dialysis suction and IV fluids. It's 48 hours today. How are you going to manage it further? There is no theory at all. You examine a patient. Would you do a barium study? Would you do a CT scan? If you are doing a barium study, why are you doing it? One, you may say, well, there is a visible intestinal peristalsis. Obviously, the patient is obstructed. Patient hasn't moved his bowel in spite of conservative management for 48 hours. Should we take him up for surgery immediately, or should we again wait for some time? That is what is expected of you to decide. You decide and say, okay, this is the way it should be. You can disagree with the management that is being given to the patient by the ward. It's perfectly all right. You can say, I'm sorry, this is not the way I would manage. And give your reasons that, look, I don't agree with that. But you have to have a logic. You can't say that off the hat, no, you should take up for a surgery. Why are you taking up for surgery? Or if they didn't take up for surgery earlier, you can ask them, they should have taken up for a surgery early. Suppose a man is 65 or 68 years old and has been obstructed for 2 days. Chances are it could be a large bowel obstruction. And you won't wait for 48 hours in a large bowel obstruction because it is often a closed loop obstruction. Gangrene sets in early. So you can say that, I'm sorry, the treatment which the unit is giving is at variance from what I would personally like to do, or the place where I've been trained. This is the way I've been trained. That's perfectly all right.
So broadly, we can have cases, like for example, if you go to any surgical ward, and any case which is there admitted in a surgical ward can be a potential ward round case.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
They can be pre-operative case, like for example, a jaundice case which is waiting for a Whipple surgery or a CVD exploration. There can be post-operative cases of various surgeries, commonly done surgeries. There can be cases of trauma which are under conservative management. There can be cases of surgical diagnosis which may or may not undergo operative treatment. But how you will monitor them, how you will manage the day-to-day complications is the main skill set which I think we want to evaluate during this ward round.
A simple thing like, would you like to give antibiotics to this patient?
Yeah, and which antibiotic maybe, yeah.
If so, which antibiotic do you want to give? How many doses do you want to give? When do you want to give? We all talk of prophylactic antibiotics. What is a prophylactic antibiotic? If your consultant tells you give this antibiotic and you may not use your brain, that you have not learned anything at all. You have to decide in this patient, if he or she is undergoing a surgery tomorrow, you want to give an antibiotic. When do you want to give an antibiotic? What dosage would you like to give an antibiotic? How many doses do you want to get after surgery? Some people say everybody should be given 5 days antibiotic. No, that's not true. And you can always say that, look, this patient has been given an antibiotics for the last 3 days. I personally think it's not right. It's perfectly all right.
Is it a good idea to say to examiner that I don't agree with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't have to agree with everything that an examiner says.
Yeah.
It's a discussion. It's a management of a case in examination. They call it an examination, but it's nothing but a day-to-day workup of a patient, the management of a patient. That way is called as a ward round. And any case can be a potential
Ward round case.
Ward round case for you.
Yeah.
A patient who has had a sympathectomy done, patient who has had an amputation done, a patient who has had as simple as hydrocele surgery done.
Yeah.
He can be a potential candidate in examination. A patient who has a furious gangrene, he can be a potential candidate for you. So, to say that I'll read up these 20 cases or 25 cases and be sail through an examination, when it comes to ward round, there's a big catch.
Yes.
Unless you have attended it, it's a little difficult to sail through. The only advice which I'm sure Dr. Anurag would agree with me is, you have to be sincere in your 3 years of training regarding going to the hospital, going to the ward, attending the patient, if not more often, at least twice a day, seeing them pre-operatively, seeing them peri-operatively, managing the fluid and electrolytes, managing antibiotics, and even a still simpler would be, okay, this fellow has an IV drip set up in the cubital fossa. Do you think it is right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you have you must have seen many of the hospitals, the IV line is set up in the forearm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether many of you have ever noticed or not, the most painful place to set up an IV line is in the forearm. It's very, very, very painful. And we just don't pay any attention at all. But this is what we expect you, that okay, if your friend or a relative or known to you is admitted in the ward, wouldn't you like the person to be comfortable? Wouldn't you like to set up a drip where it doesn't hurt him?
Yeah.
You would like to put up a drip on the joint. And that is what is asked in the examination. Look, this man has got a drip here. You think that's the right place to set up a drip? And if it is wrong, you have a right to say, no, I don't agree with that. This is not a right place.
So you will realize that ward rounds is one area, one part of examination where other specialities are also discussed. So like this will be an area where maybe you'll be talking about anesthesia or medicine or acid-base balance, fluid electrolyte balance, microbiology of infections. So this is area which expects you to be a all-round doctor first before a surgeon.
Absolutely, absolutely. But nobody expects you to go into the depth of everything.
Yes.
How you manage a patient every day, that is what is important. I don't know How many places are they doing ABG three times a day?
Not many. Even the best of institutes are not doing
They're
it.
not
So
doing it. So you don't have to say that I'll do ABG studies. Hey, how will you assess the ABG status of this patient on your day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So
That is what is a ward round.
So I'm sure you have a fair idea about ward rounds now. What from our side we will do is we will create a series of, because as sir is saying, ward rounds is going to hospital is important, but last year we saw because of COVID, and then there are many centers where people might not be lucky to see a variety of cases. So
Yes.
we will help you out in that by creating those commonly asked, so that you have an idea of how a ward round viva would be like, and you can prepare yourself well around it. Any last?
Yeah, but don't be scared. Don't think that if you are saying something which is at variance from what the patient is getting in examination, you will be pulled up. No, if you are right, you are right. It's a discussion between the two parties. One side is the so-called examiner, who in your day-to-day is your consultant,
Yeah.
and you are a resident. And you can always disagree with your resident. Don't we always disagree? No, sir, I don't think this is not the way we should manage.
Yes.
We should do this investigation. I don't think the diagnosis should be this. It can also be this. That's perfectly justified. So you don't have to say yes to whatever the examiner says, but also you don't have to antagonize the examiner. You have to be,
There's a very thin line which you
yeah,
need to
thin
walk.
line.
I tell my students now that in day-to-day practice, if you ask too much of whys, I think you'll be preparing yourself well. So you'll realize you should know whatever is happening in ward, why it is happening. As a student, keep asking your seniors, or you can post it to us also, that this was being done, why it is being done this way, and then you will realize that slowly you are ready for any kind of discussion like these, and that is the thing, because you'll here also in ward rounds you'll have a lot of why questions. Why you don't put intracath or IV cannula on the same side? Why you are doing a urine analysis if the patient is running fever? Why are you mobilizing the patient early? All that things. So those why questions are very important in ward rounds, I think.
One has to be just practical. Please, when you frame your replies or answer your questions, please don't utter things which are not done in your center. Please do not say things which are hypothetical, which are not done in most of the centers, like saying, I'll get a urinary chloride done. How many centers are there doing a urinary chloride? Forget quantitative, even qualitative.
Yes.
I don't recall in the last 30, 35 years that we were in a government setup, we were doing a urinary chloride. Way back when I was a resident, yes, we used to do it. And it was a very simple test, but over a period of time, these things have gone. So please stick to absolute basics. What is asked, just reply that much. Don't try to impress an examiner. You may be more learned. I'm sure you know more than the examiner knows. But in the process, don't dig your grave. Examiner is there to pass you. Believe you me, it is very difficult for examiner to fail a candidate.
I totally agree.
You might say that, oh, failing is so easy. No, it is not easy. I can tell you, sitting across the table, an examiner has to go a few steps extra to prove that, look, man, we can't help you. We want to help you, but unfortunately, we can't help you. It's not easy to
fail anyone.
Fail a candidate. Don't go with an impression that they are ruthless, they are cruel, they are no feeling.
So, friends, in today's session, you got an idea about how ward rounds are conducted, what are our expectations as examiners from candidates, and how to prepare for it. And also, we shared that we'll be recording few videos and putting it live on the app, which will help you in this process. And the main message is go to wards regularly, attend to the cases, and this is what will be asked. Any last comments as well?
I think even those of you who have finished your theory papers, I'm sure there is about 4 to 6 weeks of
Yes,
gap
yes.
between the theory and the practical. Even in these coming 6 weeks, go to the ward, discuss with your senior residents, discuss with your consultants, at least 2 or 3 cases every day. Even then, you will have about 100 odd cases you should discuss till you appear in examination. It won't be as good as you had been doing regularly, but yes, it will be better than not having done any discussion at all with your colleagues. The moral of the story is please go to the wards, please see the patients. Don't just stick to the books, mug up the facts, and vomit them in the examination. No, that's not true. We don't expect you to do that. And well, we wish you all the best.
Yes. So, wishing you best from the whole team of Conceptual Surgery, and all the best.
Thank you.